Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Business Success Society and a conversation with Barry Clark of Dunedin Consultancy Limited. And today we're very pleased to be accompanied also by Clare Mills of Listen, Think, Draw, who hopefully you can see on the screen. If not, you should be able to see and hear us. We thought we had the tech all sorted out. I'm not 100% sure exactly what the Facebook viewers are seeing, but you should be able to see us hopefully, or hear us hopefully, but also see potentially the drawing screen. Now on my big screen here I've got Barry, and on there I've got the iPad coming up. So let me just have a look and see if anybody is watching. That would be good to know. Oh well, so at the moment it looks as though that it's got the three of us, but maybe the like Claire's there, and I'll see whether Claire can see the drawing screen, and then we're good to go. So let's just start. Claire has turned her camera off now that she said hello. We can maybe revisit her a little bit later on as well. Barry, thank you very much for joining me today. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. I think you probably asked to go on the list about October time or something, but it's come round, and here we are. So yeah, just tell me a little bit about Dunedin Consultancy and what it is that you do.
So thank you, Kat. Delighted to be here. Thank you for the opportunity and the invitation. The life story of Dunedin Consultancy. I started the business just a little over 3 years ago, and safe to say, probably like most of us who have our own businesses, what Dunedin is today, compared to what I set out to do 3 years ago, not quite the same thing. It's a little bit different. My corporate life before 3 years ago was working in the hospitality industry, leadership and sales roles in the hotel industry. And that involved me doing quite a lot of troubleshooting and consultancy with distressed businesses. So 3 years ago, when I was made redundant as part of a sale and restructuring transaction for about the third or fourth time within about 10 years, decided that it really was time to set out on my own, with the intention of carrying on doing what I did, that consultancy work in the hospitality business. Now, I still do some of that. That's my real niche area. What I actually spend most of my time doing now is working with the audience that we're talking to right now, SME business owners and individuals as well, who are looking to grow their business. And I became aware probably about 18 months ago, people were approaching me asking for help with selling skills, asking for help to overcome their fears and apprehensions about selling their products. And what I quickly became aware of was, and it reflected the journey that I was going through myself. I think we all set up our own businesses because we're really good at what we do. We are the experts in our field. And then we identify that actually doing what you do, doing the day job, is 20-25% of running your own business.
Oh yes.
Yeah. A huge part of where you really spend your time is marketing your products and services, going through a sales conversation and a sales process with your customers. And most of the people that you and I spend a lot of time with day to day have had little, or in most cases, no structured sales training whatsoever throughout their lives. And that actually really reflects the majority of the people that I work with today. So it's been a fascinating journey. What it allows me to do is to really help people overcome one of the biggest fears and barriers that they have in their small business, which is engaging and selling the products and services to their customers.
Do you think that a lot of small business owners, they just don't like sales, it's the bit that they really would rather they never had to do, that just terrifies the poo out of them?
I think it terrifies the pants off most people. It sounds a bit cliched, but I genuinely hear most days of the week, I will hear people saying to me, I'm no good at sales, I'm terrified of sales. And interestingly, this phrase that's now become somewhat my catchphrase, so many people keep telling me, I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be that person. And when I scratch a bit deeper beneath the surface, a lot of small business owners have this persona in their head of kind of a combination of Arthur Daly, a bit of Del Boy, and a bit of every, I might upset a few people here, and I'm sorry, every door-to-door insurance, life assurance, pension salesman that they've ever found knocking on their door. And it's quite amusing, because I meet so many people that say to me, I don't want to be that salesy person. And when I ask them what they do in their business, guess what they turn into? That salesy person. The old subconscious mind kicks in, and the very thing that they're worried about not being, they become. The enjoyment for me, the satisfaction for me, is then being able to help people to overcome that, and actually help them to see not only that selling the products and services and having a structured sales process is really, really important to the business, but actually it's really quite simple as well.
Yes, I know. I mean, as you know, it's something I kind of preach as well, is having some sort of methodology and ability to track what you're doing as well, you know, because people are so find it so difficult to focus and keep that focus and know exactly what they're doing, when and where and how in that sales process as well, you know. So there's a reasonable overlap between what you're doing with people and what I'm doing with people in that sort of sales environment. But yes, I mean, most people, I mean, I work a lot with sales teams as well.
Yep.
And that, of course, brings a whole other dimension into it in terms of how to manage sales teams, which is yet another little skill that is lacking.
You've just reminded me of a...
Do you work with sales managers as well then? Sorry, you were just about to say something.
I do. And so I work with sales managers and sales teams as well. And you've just reminded me of a situation that I found. It was actually in the last business that I was manager and director of in the employed world. And back in 2013, I took on this business down in the Midlands, near Nottingham. And I mean, we could probably spend the rest of the week talking about anecdotes from that. But the thing you've particularly reminded me of, that situation I describe of where the tail wags the dog. I remember I'd been there a couple of weeks, and as was pretty much my methodology, I would start my work in any kind of distress business very much within the sales function, within the sales unit. You know, I was taught a long time ago by one of my early mentors. Broadly speaking, there's two ways to approach running a business. You can focus all on your financials. You can focus all on your costs, your outgoings. And I've met many people over the years who are quite obsessive about what they're spending, and the lack of focus in terms of what's coming in the top. Now, okay, every business owner should have a focus on what they're spending, of course. But if you're obsessing about what's going out and you're not paying attention to what's coming in, you don't have a viable business. That's quite simple. And one of my early mentors taught me, you know, keep an eye on what you're spending, but actually your focus should all be upon the sales activity and what's coming in the top. I'm deliberately doing that because I always talk about sales funnels.
The funnel thing,
Yeah,
we love a funnel.
I talk about lots of funnels, and you know, it's what comes in at the top that really matters. What revenue are you bringing in? And then, of course, keep an eye on what you're doing. So I remember sitting with the sales office manager in this particular business, and they kept telling me the first couple of weeks I was there, oh, we're so busy, we don't have time to answer the phones, we don't have time to respond to customer emails. And I really wanted to get to the bottom of what is it you're busy with? Because I have to say, my observation from the outside was that as a sales office, they actually weren't all that busy, and they certainly weren't very productive, but they very much had the mindset that they were. Now, cut a long story short, what I uncovered was that out of a 5-day working week, the sales office manager was spending 3 days extracting data from what we in the hotel world, what we call the property management system. So the kind of operating computer system, the database. And she would, because they had two systems that weren't integrated, she would extricate all this data out. And that was taking her the best part of one day. And then every Tuesday, she would spend most of Tuesday repurposing all that data into a whole load of reports. And then Wednesday, she would format that into the way that the then head of sales and marketing wanted it in their reports. So at the end of Wednesday, we had this.
This is so familiar. Yeah.
And you could probably anticipate. So then my question is, okay, so you've spent 3 days processing all this data. What does it tell us? What are you actually doing with that data when you spent 3 days a week processing it? And you'd think I'd ask them what the theory of relativity was. I mean, this blank face in front of them. And then there was, I gave them a bit of space to process. And then there was the realization, we're spending 3 days a week processing all this data. We don't actually do anything with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what could you be doing with that data? The end result of that whole process was actually, it was a complete waste of time. We were processing all this data, reformatting it, and then actually never did anything with it. And that really reinforced for me the story of, don't get too obsessive about the numbers. Don't get too obsessive to the point where the tail wags the dog. Because actually what we needed was, we had 4 people working in the sales office, and they're saying to me, oh, we haven't got time to answer the phone and speak to our customers because we're sat processing all of this data. Yeah. I
know we laugh, but yeah, it's sadly incredibly common.
Yes, indeed. And that was a brilliant example of, well, we're always doing what we've always done. Yeah. So guess what? They always got what they always got.
Yeah. Yes, I, as you know, I've been involved in selling large-ish CRM systems to organizations, and there's always comes this point where they say, oh, does it do reports? And so I just used to have this thing, or particularly if it was post-sale and it was as part of the implementation, shows the report. So I would sort of go click, 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 and I'd sort of produce this piece of paper. I'd say, well, here you are, here's your report. What are you going to do with it?
Yes.
And they were just like, but we need a report. I said, well, what do you want? Do you want me to give you a call list of people that haven't been spoken to in 3 weeks? Oh yeah, that'd be really useful. I said, we don't want reports. Yeah. You want information. You want lists. You want actions. You want. Oh, I get it now. Yeah.
It's really interesting you mentioned that, Kat, because one of the fairly frequent conversations I have, one of the nice synergies with my work is working with people like yourself who are, who are focusing more on the systems and process side of things. One of the nice synergies is with people who are experts in marketing process. And why is that the case? Well, we often hear sales and marketing being combined into one function. I'll go and talk to the sales and marketing department. And I was talking to someone just a few days ago in a networking event, a marketer, who, she actually came out and said, it's so refreshing to talk to somebody that's in the sales field who actually sounds like they're speaking the same language as me. So often sales and marketing are usually fighting with each other.
Yes. Sibling rivalry. I've written a blog on that.
The whole blame game goes on. You're giving me rotten leads. I can't go and sell them.
Yes, it's and it doesn't really matter how small the organization is, unless it's like one person where they could start having a blame game within themselves. But even in very small organizations, that seems to kind of be part of the problem as well.
Yeah, I've seen it happen. I've encountered it. Yeah.
So I mean, just talking about the current situation, and we were talking about this with Claire before we came on stream. The current situation, I mean, obviously one of your major sort of markets is the hotel hospitality industry. So how's how's that working at the moment?
How's that working? The trite answer would be it's not. Fair to say that side of my business is pretty dormant right now. Prime example, I was working on a couple of projects through February, March, supporting investors who are looking to purchase hotels. Both happen to be in central Scotland. Now, nobody in their right mind is going to spend £500,000, £750,000 on a hotel business right now, particularly when it's shut. So that's come to a complete halt right now. I'm fairly comfortable and confident in the fact that whenever we come out the other side of this, whenever that might be, if it's 3 months, 6 months, whatever, I actually think for those hospitality businesses that can survive this current shutdown period, I think they'll bounce back fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Caveat is those that can survive, because it's an industry where profit margins are notoriously tight. The fixed costs are quite significant. So to shut down a restaurant or a cafe or a hotel business really is quite catastrophic. And unfortunately, I think there's quite a number who sadly just won't survive this period. They won't have the reserves. And I have to be, without getting party political, there's a lot of talk about help at the moment. It's not reaching the coalface, is what I'm hearing. That's the feedback I'm getting from my contacts. But I think it will bounce back quite quickly. And why do I think it will bounce back quickly? Well, I think most people are climbing the walls already, just having been locked down for 3-4 weeks. Considering realistically, it's probably going to be 3 months that we're in these kind of conditions. I think once we are able to travel and get away, I think one of the things that's going to be high on most people's priorities is just getting a couple of days away, getting a weekend somewhere, getting away from home, getting out of the big cities. I live on the edge of Glasgow. Getting to Oxford, and whatever else to get a bit away, get a bit of fresh air and get away. So I think the domestic staycation market will bounce back pretty quickly. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to come in the latter part of the year if people can just make it through now. And that's the same conversation I'm having with my kind of my SME clients is, right now it's just about survival.
Yeah.
Can you pay the bills? Can you keep not eat into your financial reserves too much? Can you furlough your staff so that you don't have to lay them off? Can you just survive for now? And also posing the question, and it's a difficult question, it's an uncomfortable question for a lot of people. If your regular business isn't feasible at the moment, like my hotel consulting business, what else?
Yeah.
What else can you do?
Yeah.
Because believe you me, there are people, there's still business being done. There's still money being spent.
There is definitely. I mean, I know I've seen on LinkedIn a couple of people say that when they've put something out, which is like a marketing or sales type piece, a couple of people have attacked them saying, oh, how can you possibly be trying to sell in this current environment? 98% of the people are very supportive and sort of say, well, of course, and if we all spend a little bit of money with the next particularly small business, etc., that's what drives an economy. It's small amounts of money circulating fast. I did economics for a year at uni. I got the basics, hated every single second of it. But nobody wants profiteering. No. The people who so at the moment, as I've been saying to people, I was too late to order a new webcam, so I'm just using the one on the laptop. It does the job.
Yeah.
It doesn't do a fantastic job in some ways, but it does the job. I can communicate. Yep. I can see and be seen, so it's absolutely fine. So now you can't, in the normal sources, you can't get a Logitech webcam. They don't exist. I could buy one on eBay at 300 quid. I refuse to. I refuse to give somebody that money. If they were selling it, even if they were selling it at cost, if they said, I paid 89 quid for it. If you'll pay me 89 quid for it, I would go for that. It's still a little bit like, okay, it's not brand new, but 3 times the price people are trying to charge because they think they can get away with it. Now, nobody is going to be supportive of that.
No,
but
and quite rightly so.
Yeah. But people, who offer services to people who need them and people who have the wherewithal to pay for them, who want to buy those services and products, I can't go to Tesco's and get my groceries for nothing.
Well, exactly. Precisely. You're pretty much echoing a number of conversations that I've had with people over the last 3-4 weeks. It was a very emotive time 3-4 weeks ago when the current lockdown was put into place, and I spoke to some of my clients and a number of people who really went into that classic enforced change process. They went into shock and anger, and then eventually I'm now seeing a lot of people in that realization phase. They're rationalizing, they're coming to terms with it. I had people saying to me, I can't possibly sell my products and services when we're in lockdown. And me being me, well, why? You're going to need to help me to understand why are you taking that stance. And funnily enough, I've seen most of those people in the last couple of weeks actually start repurposing their products and putting some things in market, out to market. I've absolutely been saying to people, now is the time to continue talking to your clients. If you've got prospective clients, people that you've been talking to for a while, now is absolutely the time to be carrying on those conversations. Because I guarantee you, if you're not talking to your clients, some of your competitors will be.
Yes.
And you will lose those clients. So
Very
there's
good point.
never been more important. I'm saying to people, deliver fantastic value. If you want to revisit your pricing and you perhaps want to make sure you're delivering fantastic value, by all means do that. But why give things away for free?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I know quite a lot of people who are, and I guess I'm one of them, charging this, pretty much the price is the same, but you're getting more. You're getting more of me. Yes. For the same price. That's my way of helping out, kind of thing. So, but otherwise, you just devalue your product. So what happens in November when you say, well, actually now I want to charge you 3 times the price for that?
Exactly. There will be long-term consequences to that. And it is just so important that, we often hear it said, small business is the lifeblood of this country. I think it's true to a big extent. It's the small businesses, the SMEs, that keep the UK economy going. And we've got a part to play during this crisis at the moment to keep doing that. If somehow we let the economy stop moving, we let the flow of cash stop, then we'll be in an even worse, far worse situation than we currently are today. And it'll be a much longer and much more difficult problem to come out of. So it's so important that we keep commerce moving. And I absolutely endorse everything you've just said, Kat. Buy locally if you can. I was quite shocked when I'd heard a report from the British Retail Consortium a couple of weeks ago. There's 1.5 billion pounds of groceries. 1.5 billion pounds more groceries gone through the main supermarkets in the month of March than March last year. Now, I've got nothing against the mainstream supermarkets, but frankly, Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Morrison's don't need your money right now. They may well in 6 or 9 months' time, because people have got so much food and dry goods and everything stored in their cupboards. I suspect there might be £1 billion less goes through in October or November.
Well, there's a lot that went to landfill 3 weeks later, but let's not talk about that.
Yeah. So I'm very much campaigning shop locally at the moment. Tesco, Sainsbury's don't actually need your money right now. No. And there's a lot of free stuff out in the marketplace. You spend 5 minutes on LinkedIn, you'll be bombarded with free this, free that, free the next thing. I actually think most people Now, it's not the case for everybody, and I am hugely empathetic to the people who have been very significantly financially impacted. You know, I've seen my anticipated income for April, I forecast will be down by about 35%, because certain pieces of work just aren't going ahead. I know most of that will come back later in the year, so I'm not panicking at the moment. But I still know that, you know, my revenue for this month will be about 65-70% of what I forecasted. And you know what? That means I can pay the bills. It means I can put food on the table. The important thing is, you know, instead of just downloading these free stuff all the time, if you know somebody that does a bit of marketing training, if you know a VA that can help you to set up your CRM system or to clean out your CRM system, go and give your local VA a day's work. You know, go and spend that 50 or 100 quid with them to do it for you, because they'll do a far better job than you sitting working through a free webinar download. If you need help, okay, slightly shameless plug, if you need help with your sales training, go to somebody who's going to charge you a fair deal and give you fantastic value for it, as opposed to a free webinar that you can download off LinkedIn. Keep the money flowing through the economy.
I think the other thing is the shiny object syndrome as well, is that there's a lot of people sort of saying, oh, that looks exciting, I'll go and look at that over there, instead of actually focusing on the basics of what they really need. I mean, we're all a little bit guilty of it. I'm kind of thinking, and certainly this week has taught me, that the first 3 weeks where people were either ostriches, where they just, you know, couldn't deal with anything, and I'm not judging. I'm just saying that's the reality. Some people were just like, oh, I can't deal with any of this. Some people were, and I was one of them, running around like daft things, and slightly burnt myself out last week, and that's fine. And I had a day where I just kind of went. But yeah, but some people have been kind of pinging about doing things and not actually achieving anything particularly useful. But they've realised. So the first 3 weeks was that. And I've seen a change in people this week, kind of suddenly saying, right, oh, okay, this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
I get it now. I get it. Right, okay, now's the time to actually not ping about, like, you know, and not be focused. Now's the time to actually think, what do I really need? Who do I really need to talk to? Because I've just had different conversations this week.
Yep, that reflects my week as well, I have to say. Something I've found myself talking to quite a lot of people about recently. There's a model that I'm familiar with, which I've shared with quite a few people recently. The process that we all go through with handling unanticipated or unwelcome change, and it's what I call the SARA model. S stands for shock, A for anger, the R is for realization, rationalization. The second A is for acceptance, and then the H is how do we move forward? What do we do?
Oh, I like that one. The SARA model. I might have
it's
to
a
pitch
nice
that.
model. And the reality, we all
I'm
go
just
through
going to write that down.
I'll go through it again. S is for shock.
Yeah.
A is for anger.
Yeah.
The R is for rationalization.
And
A is for realization, rationalization.
Yeah.
The second A is acceptance.
Yeah. And how the hell do I do this?
how do I do this? How do I move forward? What next? And the thing is, we all go through that process.
Oh, it's being captured as we speak. Well done, Claire. Yeah.
The variable is how quickly we move through that process. Yeah. That's the variable.
Yes.
And I think when you've got the awareness, when you've got a level of self-awareness that you can recognize that, you can then help yourself to get through the process. And the objective is to get through to the acceptance and how do I move forward as quickly as possible. I've seen a lot of people over the last 3-4 weeks stuck in the shock and anger.
Yeah.
I would agree.
And I mean, a lot of that was around financially, how am I going to survive? Fear for yourself, fear for your family, fear for your business. People who employed people, I mean, they had a dreadful time. An absolutely dreadful time trying to do the right thing by their employees and all, you know. So that took 3 weeks to to sort through. Absolutely, 100%. I'm just going to see if anybody's got any questions. I'm not sure. I can see some comments on there, so I'm just going to see. And of course, there's the delay where you ask for questions and then nothing happens for a little while.
Of course.
And then I've got some new people watching. So would anybody like to ask a question just so that I can see whether I can see the questions, if that makes sense? I've got it on my phone. In the meantime, I'll ask Barry for a shameless plug for a Business Success Society, because that's what I always do. What do you like about the Business Success Society, Barry? I always ask this.
I like there's a couple of things that I particularly like about Business Success Society. It's the community of like-minded souls. I certainly find that there is, there's an extended group of people throughout central Scotland, and we kind of bump into each other at events from time to time. One of the things I find about the Business Success Society is it brings a lot of those people together in one place. So I like that shared sense of community there. I have to say, you and I have sat down a number of times, Kat, and had a chat, and I think we're fairly like-minded souls as well. It's nice to just be able to spend a bit of time with somebody through this virtual community, and you can bounce ideas around. And when you've got that trusted, respected opinion there, that you can have that kind of sanity check. Well, what do you think about this? And you mentioned earlier on, there's a lot of the blame game, and a lot of people are quite tense and quite anxious at the moment, and that's making it difficult to actually have a rational adult conversation sometimes. It's good to not agree with everybody. It's good to have different opinions and actually bounce them around, and you get a different perspective on things. And I find that Business Success Society delivers that for me.
Fantastic, yeah, and as you said, because those of you who've done this before know there's a little questionnaire comes out, and we have so that I've got a little bit of an idea what we're going to talk about. You started your own group as well, which I'm proud to be a member of as well, which is a different focus. So if you haven't joined Leading You to Sales Success, we'll put the link in as well so that people can join that one. I've got a question for you.
Whoa, fire away.
No surprise at all to realise it comes from Shona.
Hi, Shona.
Do you think people will change the way they operate coming out of this? That is the question, really, isn't it?
That is the question, isn't it? Well, I do have an opinion on that, and I'll qualify that as it is just my opinion. I think people will change the way that they do business moving forward. I think I'll adapt slightly the way that I do business moving forward. I think people will continue with a greater degree of virtual meetings than we did previously. I think one of the positives, and you can find positives in every situation. One of the positives that's come out of this for me is that I was quite reluctant. I'm a bit of a technophobe at the best of times. Late 40s. I'm in that kind of age group that, I'll be really honest, I struggle to keep up with the sheer speed that technology changes constantly these days. The whole moving my coaching business, my one-to-ones, my coffee chats and such, moving it all online, something that I've resisted over the last kind of 12, 18 months. So the last month has taught me it's not that scary, it's not that difficult, and I can have just as good conversations, but I can use my time much more effectively with these online meetings. So I'm not missing one bit spending probably 15, 20 hours a week in the car. I'm not missing one bit locking up.
The petrol bill's testament to that as well.
Absolutely. My car's barely moved for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I'm not missing all of that downtime when I'm traveling from one place to another. I think that'll change the way that we do business as well. I suspect there will be less business travel. I don't think people will stop traveling for business. I don't believe that at all.
No.
I think we will be much more circumspect about when we do travel for business. So my vision, if you like, I think we'll probably meet face to face a bit less, but when we do, we'll make more of it. I think we're on little.
It's not just meetings for the sake of meetings.
Exactly. Before we came online, we were talking about Clare's business and how she you know, the old version of her business was quite heavily dependent upon big events. And I think people will probably make more effort to go to the big events because they're not going to be dashing around quite as much day to day. I hope that's the case as well for my own, you know, for my own selfish reasons in terms of the hotel and hospitality business, because, you know, the big events right now, they're not happening and we don't know when they'll come back.
And I also just, you know, allow you to have a little bit of a plug for 4N as well, because I know you've been running your 4 networking meetings online.
Indeed.
Is that a model that you see continuing with, in terms of blending the real and the virtual, or how do you think that's going to pan out?
I believe that is what will happen afterwards. You know, there's no definitive decision being made on that, but I think that the model of online virtual networking is here to stay. I'll be really on it. I'm not saying anything I haven't said officially. I was quite skeptical to begin. You know, I was quite ingrained in the routine of 3-4 times a week I was away having my breakfast, having my meeting. I was in that routine. I jumped in skeptically and quite quickly realized there's a huge opportunity there. You know, with virtual, of whichever brand of networking it may be.
Yeah.
A lot of different options out there. I've had conversations with people in the last 2 and 3 weeks from all over the UK, from different kind of businesses, and I probably wouldn't have met them otherwise. But because I've been in online meetings where the geographical barriers are just irrelevant anymore. You know, it might be branded as a Scotland 4N meeting, but we've got people from all over the country coming in.
Right.
And, you know, I've had some really purposeful conversations in the last 2 or 3 weeks, which are already moving towards, you know, a commercial outcome, which I'm really pleased about.
I think that's faster online. This is a matter of interest.
Yeah, I think it is.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Mind you, it's difficult to separate out the kind of the current situation from, you know, so that might be driving things in a different way as well. I have a question for Claire. Actually, Claire, I hope you can hear, maybe we could bring Claire back on camera again, if she's happy to do that. Well, I've got a question for her. Hi there. I've got a question from Joy. To ask what program you're using on your iPad.
Okay, it's an Adobe program. It's called Adobe Draw. It's a little bit old now, so if you don't have it downloaded already, you now can't get it. They've replaced it with something called Adobe Fresco, which you need to pay a monthly subscription to. Fresco is quite similar. And is in many ways better, but it does lack some of the things that this lacks, which is why I'm still using this, because I'm really happy with this one. But I am learning the Fresco, and it is hoped that the bits that it's lacking will be included.
Excellent. Yes, I mean, I think Adobe is they went to that subscription model sort of 2 or 3 years ago, because I used to have Adobe, you know, the PDF program, which allowed you to create but also edit PDFs, but now I have to buy it as part of a monthly subscription, and it's more expensive than it used to be to buy it as a one-off. So yeah, unfortunately that's the model that's being used at the moment. I can see the drawing. I've got an extended screen, which is why I keep looking off into the far distance. So I can see the drawing over there. It's absolutely amazing. I think time has been moving on. I'd like to thank Barry hugely for his chat today. That's been absolutely fascinating. I'd also like to thank Claire for her amazing drawing. And I'd like to thank everybody who has been watching, participating and asking questions as well. I hope you all have a fabulous weekend doing whatever it is you're allowed to do these days. No Easter eggs to hunt this weekend, though. So, Waistlines will be pleased about that as well. The blether will take place after this. I'll post the Zoom link for the blether if anybody would like to stay on for that. Otherwise, it will be another Monday morning and a Monday social on Monday morning. So thanks very much for joining me, Barry. Thank you very much, Claire. And I hope you all have a fabulous weekend.